Heyo, it's Plan B back in KSP, and today we are continuing the colonization of the Mun. Right now we are creating a Voyager-esque spacecraft that's going to actually go into a almost polar orbit of the Mun to do some resource scavenging, scanning. This is using the mod SCANsat, so that's what all of these modules are from. Obviously you don't really see these in the main game because they don't exist. So this is a bit of a modded little dealio, but the two items that I put on here right now are actually meant to do a terrain scan, so I know the slopes of areas, as well as a actual like resource scanner. So I'm gonna put this into I believe it ends up being like a 60-degree off of the equatorial for the Mun to do the scanning, and then I kind of just let it do its thing for a while. But like I said, very Voyager-esque. It's got a little bit of monopropellant, and then I end up putting the what was it, the magtometer boom arm on it in a moment as well. So there it is. I quite like it. I love the Voyager spacecraft, so my little rendition of it here just makes me happy. I would love to try to do a proper like Voyager mission in KSP, but I don't know the feasibility of that without having to like pack a whole bunch of Delta V into a tiny little package. But I don't know, I might have a look at it and see what kind of encounters I might be able to get. Anyway, we're making this scanning craft here to go off and actually, scan the Mun. And then we're going to be sending a mining colony, a small mining colony off to the Mun, to an area that is rich in ore. The colony will consist of 2 miners, a fuel reservoir tank, a probe rover type thing. I call it the bug. I think it looks like a bug, but it's got a fully autonomous rover, and then the main refining section, and it's all manned by Kerbals. So that was the main bit. I've never messed with the mining aspect of this game before, so that was a big learning curve for me. But I also challenged myself to try to get outside of this, because the resource scanning I can do on my own, like it's its own separate vessel. But as far as the actual colony that I sent, I did that all in one mission. So it's you'll see after this is a very basic, it's actually not too dissimilar to like the Voyager craft. I believe they were launched aboard the Titan rockets. Either way, it's a fairly simple like just Mun rocket, couple of SRBs, and it goes and it gets you up into the Mun. But later it's probably the biggest and most complex rocket I've ever made. Anyway, here's the MRRM, I believe I ended up calling it. I gave it some funky acronym and I patted myself on the back for it, but I don't remember what it means anymore. It was like the Munner Resource Reconnaissance mammogram, I don't know. Anyway, there's the separation, the little egg capsule on the end there that actually holds the spacecraft. I don't remember it being this slow. We get it obviously up into Kerbin's orbit. I've done so many of these missions off to the Mun that at this point I feel like you guys have a pretty good idea of what it takes to get up to the Mun, and if you haven't, feel free to watch any of my other videos. I have 2 more of the Colonizing space videos that I include more footage of trying to get to the Mun. But this is the little egg capsule and the transfer stage. There goes the canopy, the fairing for the actual spacecraft itself, and then we go ahead and deploy the solar panel, so it has energy, like it has power for when we're transferring, so we don't just have a dumb stupid rock floating through space. With KSP 2 just around the corner, and me looking at KSP 1 and seeing how much of the actual game I haven't used yet, I really wanted to try to utilize the mining ability that the game includes. This is me ditching that bottom stage, getting an encounter to the actual surface of the Mun, and then releasing it, and now I'm picking myself back up, raising my periapsis to be something that I ended up wanting it to be. I tried to get it into a fairly, I believe it was like 50,000 meter circular orbit, just because the equipment that I have on here that actually does the resource scan, and you can see the lovely little map here, and we'll speed run through and update it so you can see it actually do its scanning. It has specific like distances that it wants you to be, and both of these work best at 50,000, I think it's 50,000 meters above the surface. So here we are, and that was us getting all the data scans, and with that information I end up planning out where I want to set the base, and also putting a little waypoint, which you'll see in a moment. But yeah, seeing that KSP2 is coming around the corner, I wanted to try to use what I can in KSP1 that I know I hadn't touched much, and I've never used, here's the really large rocket that completely encases all of the everything we need for this little mining colony. I had never done the mining before, the refining, never messed with it. From what I understand that I could see in some of like the actual wikis on how to use it, it's better on asteroids, but it can be done on a lot of the planets, including the Mun, which I know isn't a planet, it's a celestial body. But I digress. This should be, I believe, staging, of that fairing going. And then this is me getting a cheeky little artistic shot in a second. You can see, I'll go into greater detail as my artistic shot, greater detail of what each of the actual items are as we go. So here we are in a circular orbit. You can see the waypoint on the Mun of where we're going to want to go. We're getting a fairly low orbit. I believe we ended up at like 15,000. So what you're going to see here is that large orange bit, which is actually going to be the first one to come off here in a moment, is the actual fuel reservoir tank. It's empty. It's where the created fuel is going to end up for another rocket to come and siphon it out and then take it to either the spaceport that we have in the Atlas spaceport that we have above the Mun, or back to Kerbin. Each one of them you'll see has kind of like its own little booster pack on top. So I went kind of squiddy. Like it's not the prettiest, but it works. So mine are all kind of squid shaped, but they work. Here we are decelerating, trying to get into a good area. I created these with really way more delta V than they needed. You can see I'm kind of overshooting here, so I have plenty of delta V to push it back the other way and then cancel that out, and then we'll cut in a moment and slowly get it down to the ground. And then I also created those canopies, the descent stages, the squid looking things, to be removable, and as you can see they also have a probe core so I can control them while they remove, so I can just smash them into the Mun and not have to worry about the debris. Here we are for our first landing, trying to make it nice and gentle, as this is not the tallest unit, but it's the most unstable because it's the tallest with the smallest base. Here we are landed, deploying everything, and then there goes that top stage. And I got separatrons that will actually separate it away from the item that it was on, and then we just hit the fuel and let it go, hit that throttle and go. This is the bug-looking rover that I was on about. Trying to create the descent pack for this was a bit troublesome because I had to try to get it as perfect as I can on the center of mass to allow it to, as you can see, like perfectly kind of push on both sides and not have it tumble in the air. But this worked out very well. This one has a probe core but no reaction wheels, nor does it have any RCS. So it doesn't quite... Actually, I tell a lie, it does have RCS, but I don't use it. So that top stage, I just kind of let it fly and I don't care about it. But once we land here, I'll deploy everything and you'll see why I end up kind of nicknaming this the bug. So here we are, touchdown, and then deploy the solar panels and turn on the brakes so we don't just continue sliding. And then we got the two little antennas on the front, the aerials, that we're going to deploy in a moment as well. There goes that top descent stage. And then I end up, it was like I think a 2-click drive over here to the actual refueling module, so I just docked it here so I know it's not kind of out on its own. I just have to play with the legs a little bit to get it to dock properly. I have a couple more videos. Oh, these are the actual minor units. There's 2 of these. So as you can see here, they're fairly small and compact. These were the worst thing for me to try to land, because the thrust to weight on these little guys is the worst thing. Also, I don't know if you'll notice, but there's a little bit of a change in the like aesthetics of the game. I figured out that I had the Waterfall mod installed, but I didn't have, there's like a config file that you have to put in there for it to actually use, unless you want to create your own, but I'm not about that. So I figured that out, and this gameplay here was split up between 2 sessions. So the second session, as you can see here, has way better engine like plumes and the shot cones and everything. So I'm very happy with this. As you can see, this one was also kind of overshooting a little bit, so plenty of delta V for me to cancel that out and then use an RCS, point it the way that I want it to go, and kind of correct for that. There's not much to really say about the land-ins. Once you see the first one, they're all kind of the same. The only thing different about these actual mining units here, which I don't know if you could see them wiggling on the bottom, is they have the tiny little wheels, like the aircraft wheels on the bottom, which my idea was, and there's a showcase of it at the very end, the docking port that's on here. If you dock the bug rover to it and then take up these landing legs, I can actually move each of these miners. So it helps, you know, if I ended up landing in a place that was not the best for resources, I can move each of them to where I need them to be. So that was my process there. The home base of the actual like fuel spire and the refiner doesn't really have to move, but these miners are more of what actually like are locked to the terrain. This one didn't work as well. I guess that probe core didn't have electricity in it, so I couldn't direct it, so it kind of just hit the ground at like, I don't know, 40 meters a second or whatever, and didn't really explode much. And then here's the second one going down. Basically the same story as the first, so I'm not going to touch on this too much. But if you're enjoying the content that you're seeing here, you know, shameless plug, like, subscribe. I do have more videos coming through. This one was so much work for me to try to do. This is probably the like most editing heavy video that I've done thus far, so it can only get like better, I'd imagine. But please like, subscribe, you know, comment. I love interaction with you guys. I have a Discord server if you want to jump in there. I've got a couple of people in there and we all just share our silly little crafts. This one I learned that it needs electric charge, so I let the solar panels fill it up a little bit and transfer some of the electric charge to it, and then we're just going to smack it to the side of this cliff here, get a nice little twist going with it. And it's gone. So this is the actual main refining stage. This is the heaviest and biggest part, hence why it's on the bottom and the last one to go. We just have to decouple the 2 like structural pieces from it. So that top structural piece goes, and then this bottom transfer stage, engine, and fuel tank I'm going to use to get the periapsis even lower into the mun, and then ditch that. And then as you can see here, we actually have 8 engines on this section here. It's all empty. There's no fuel in it, there's no ore in it, but it is just, it's very large. So I had to use a very similar setup to what I have been using, and then add 4 more of those like side mounted engines on it, just to get it a good TWR for me to like actually be able to get down to the bottom, to the surface, without it way overshooting or like hitting the ground at 200 meters a second. So you know, innovation. You gotta do what you gotta do. But here we are, slowly coming down, and this is the last bit here. So after this, our little colony is all set. Trying to get it down there as slow as I can. I think it ends up hitting the ground at like 0.5 meters a second. I was really trying to feather it, but I didn't realize my delta V, like how much fuel I had remaining. Which I think ends up being like 15 or something like that. Here in Premiere, the render doesn't really let me see what's on the screen very well outside of like just basic shapes, but apparently I cut this very close. I didn't realize it until here. You'll see in a second when I separate that top stack, the actual like descent stage, and I try to fire the engines after it's separated and I get a puff of it. I was like, oh, I have no fuel. the rest of these units were like over-engineered with way too much delta V. I even try to like take some of the leftover liquid fuel out of them just to put into the fuel tank. But this one, I guess maybe I was too liberal with how much of the thrusters I was using. I don't know, but like, dang. Anyway, here's me showing off that me actually moving one of the minor units. So you can see it's up on those wheels now, and I have to just turn around the direction that I'm using off of that probe core on the actual rover itself. And I can bring this over here. This is the only one that I overshot drastically from where I wanted it to be, which, you know, out of the 5 items that I was landing in a pretty small section here, I'll take that as a win. So there we go, and with this showing, that means this video is coming to an end. So like I said earlier, if you enjoyed what you were watching, please like, subscribe. I do have more stuff coming soon, and I'll catch you guys next time.